Chosen one, there comes a moment in your journey where the noise of the world becomes deafening, but only one voice continues to break through. That voice isn't loud. It's not chaotic. It doesn't compete with the static around you. It's a still, sacred whisper meant only for you. That voice is the direction of God. And not everyone is equipped to hear it. Not everyone was built to receive it. But you were chosen to tune in while the rest turn away. What's about to unfold is sacred. That's why stay with this message until the very end. And if your heart resonates with it, write your warmest wishes and 144 in the comments. This moment isn't just about listening. It's about activating the energy of your alignment, sending a signal to the universe that you're ready for wishes to come true and prepared for the responsibility that comes with it. Now, chosen one, show your light by liking this video and subscribe to the channel. And let's step into this together. You may have wondered why your path has felt so isolated, why no one around you seems to understand what you feel, why you receive signs in silence, get instructions at strange hours, and feel compelled to act when logic says, stay still. It's because God never meant for the masses to understand what's meant only for the marked. You're the exception in a world of distraction. And when God speaks to the chosen, it's never with fanfare. It's with precision. This direction isn't designed for comfort. It's not supposed to make you blend in. In fact, God's instructions often call you to break patterns, shatter tradition, and walk away from everything that felt secure. Why? Because the promised land can't be reached on roads paved by the crowd. The divine route requires detours, deserts, and decisions that only the bold can make. And that's you. That's always been you. While others wait for confirmation from people, you've learned to move with conviction from within. You've started to recognize that what God places on your heart often contradicts what people place in your ear. And that's not confusion, it's calibration. You are being aligned, not with the timelines of man, but with the divine blueprint that was assigned to you before time ever knew your name. This direction you're receiving? It's time-sensitive. It's holy. And if you ignore it, not only will you delay your own destiny, but you'll hold up the domino effect God designed through you. Because yes, your obedience doesn't just impact you, it shifts bloodlines. It liberates generations. It heals patterns you never even created, but were born to end. You've already felt the pull, the late-night unrest, the urges that make no sense but won't leave you alone, the sudden clarity about decisions you thought were impossible. That's divine instruction. That's not your imagination. It's revelation. And this time, God isn't asking. God is directing. And you're the only one in position to hear it. Every moment you doubted yourself, every detour that made you feel lost, was preparing you to recognize this voice. Others may call it madness, but you know what it feels like when God enters a room and rearranges your entire atmosphere. You know the difference between man's advice and heaven's orders. And that's why this direction is yours alone. Chosen one, God didn't need a crowd for this mission. He needed a vessel, a soul tuned to the frequency of obedience, a heart willing to let go before the plan is even clear, a spirit that doesn't demand full understanding, only full surrender. That's the requirement, not perfection, just willingness. There's a reason you've been pulled away lately, a reason certain people fell off without conflict, a reason opportunities closed that you thought were guaranteed. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. It was God clearing the interference so that the next instruction wouldn't be drowned out. You had to be made empty so that what comes next has space to land. And now, it's here. The direction. It won't always be logical. It won't always be celebrated. But it will always be right. Because this isn't about approval. It's about alignment. This isn't about popularity. It's about purpose. You weren't called to be understood. You were called to be obedient. You're not waiting on a sign, you are the sign. The proof that when God speaks, His chosen listen. And when they listen, atmospheres shift, doors open, and miracles are set in motion. All because you chose to obey the whisper while others chased the noise. Now move, chosen one. Follow the instruction. No delay, no second guessing. What's coming on the other side of your yes will silence every doubt, every mocker, and every fear. And the beauty is, they'll never know how close they were to what you're about to carry, because only you were meant to hear it. You've likely noticed it by now, the shift. The conversations that used to resonate now feel hollow. The places you once found comfort now feel foreign. Even your own thoughts have taken on a new tone, as if something greater is whispering from within. That's not coincidence. That's calibration. You're being tuned by the hand of God to a frequency that few can access. It's not because you're better. It's because you're built different. There is a cost to this calling. Not everyone will see the vision. Not everyone will understand the urgency you carry. They'll say you're distant. They'll call you unpredictable. But that's because your rhythm no longer moves to the beat of this world. You're not reacting to circumstance anymore. You're responding to command. And the command right now is clear. Obey in silence. Move without applause. Follow the instruction even when it leads into the unknown. This obedience isn't about rushing to the finish line, no. It's about honoring the process. Because the real power doesn't lie in speed. It lies in precision. Divine timing is never off. And what God is doing with you now isn't just for impact. It's for legacy. The direction you've been given may seem small, but don't underestimate it. A single obedient step today can activate an avalanche of favor tomorrow. Don't expect people to validate what only heaven assigned. Some instructions are too sacred to share. God told you, not them. Protect it. Guard it. Let it grow in silence. Because premature exposure kills purpose. There's a reason this direction came to you in a whisper. The enemy can't intercept what he never hears. Your obedience in this moment is your shield. There will be pressure to explain, to justify, to make your obedience palatable for others. Resist it. This isn't their path. It wasn't their voice. And it won't be their harvest. You've spent enough time trying to be understood. Now it's time to be obedient. Let the results speak for you. Let the unfolding be the answer. And you'll start to notice how heaven moves when you move. Doors will open that weren't even visible before. People you never imagined will be drawn to the light you didn't try to shine. Provision will appear not because you chased it, but because you followed instruction. That's the mark of a true chosen one. You don't manipulate the moment. You respond to it. This isn't about being liked. It's about being aligned. This isn't about convenience. It's about covenant. When you obey, you're not just fulfilling destiny. You're honoring your agreement with the divine. That contract was signed in silence, sealed in sacrifice, and it's now being activated through your movement. And yes, the the resistance will intensify. Every direction from God disrupts the systems of darkness. Don't take the opposition as a sign to stop. Take it as proof that you're walking straight into what the enemy hoped you'd never touch. That's why the attacks feel personal. That's why the delay tried to exhaust you. That's why the confusion tried to suffocate you. Because something in the spirit realm knew you were finally listening. Chosen one, your obedience is a weapon. Every time you follow God's direction, you fracture the hold of fear, doubt, and limitation. Every time you step out, you call heaven closer. You become the living proof that faith is not a feeling. It's a decision. And you made it, even when it didn't make sense, even when it hurt, even when you were alone. You didn't wait for consensus. You moved with clarity. And because of that, what's been locked will unlock. What's been blocked will clear. What's been delayed will accelerate. All because you didn't need to know all the details. You just needed to hear the voice. And you heard it. There's a reason the instruction didn't come with a crowd. It was whispered into your spirit at a moment only you would recognize, because God knew only you would truly listen. Others might hear the sound, but you feel the shift. While they're asking for signs, you're moving with certainty. That's what separates the called from the chosen. This isn't just a direction. It's a divine activation, a sacred unlocking of something that's been sealed within you since before time marked your name. And now, by listening, really listening, you've stirred that deep core. The part of you that was never meant to fit in. The part of you heaven coded with spiritual precision. The part of you that's always known. There's more. And it's in that quiet, knowing that real miracles begin. You're not waiting for confirmation anymore. You've become the confirmation. You've stopped asking for permission. You've accepted the assignment. That shift may look subtle from the outside, but spiritually, it's seismic. The realm of light recognizes it. The realm of darkness fears it. Because when a chosen one fully surrenders to divine instruction, a ripple moves through the invisible, bending outcomes, altering paths, realigning futures. Don't be surprised if things start falling away suddenly. That's the sound of old frameworks collapsing. That's the sound of a new structure forming under your feet. One you didn't build, but one that was reserved only for the obedient. The people who suddenly disappear? Let them. The opportunities that suddenly dry up? Let them. Every exit is making room for alignment. God's direction never leads to lack. It leads to overflow. But overflow doesn't sit in the comfort zone. It lives where trust walks blindly into obedience. You might not be able to explain it. You might not have the words for why you're turning left when everyone says, go right. You might not know what's next. But here's what you do know. You're moving different now. The voice you heard didn't ask for your understanding. It asked for your trust. And that trust is now shaping everything. That's why things feel unfamiliar. Because you're no longer being guided by logic. You're being led by purpose. You've stepped out of the old structure. You're not operating from survival anymore. You're building from instruction. You're living from revelation. You're walking in a rhythm that heaven recognizes. The world may call it strange, but you call it strategy. Because chosen ones know, when God directs, the outcome is never ordinary. You don't walk into blessings. You walk into divine setups. What looks random to others was calculated in the spirit long before your first step. The place you're going now isn't on any map. It's only accessed through obedience. And your ears, they were tuned for this. Your heart, softened for this. Your steps, ready for this. You didn't stumble into this moment. You were summoned. Chosen one. This is a summons. The instruction was sent specifically to your spirit because it knew you'd respond. You didn't delay. You didn't negotiate. You didn't edit what you were given to make it palatable for others. You simply received and moved. That alone shifts the atmosphere. That alone rewrites what's coming next. And don't forget, every chosen one's instruction looks different. What was asked of you won't be asked of everyone. That's why you feel the weight so heavily. That's why the silence feels sacred. Because this isn't about imitation, it's about initiation. You've been initiated into a higher level of communication with the divine. And now that you're here, every direction you receive is carrying more than words. It's carrying destiny. So hold the line. Keep walking. Keep listening. You're closer than it looks, and further than you've ever been. You've been walking through a season where silence was the loudest sound. Not because nothing was happening, but because everything was shifting. Beneath the surface, behind the scenes, beyond the reach of what others could see, something was preparing to burst through, and God didn't need everyone in the room for it. Just you. Just the one who listens. It's why your path felt lonely at times. Why certain doors stayed shut, even though you knocked with clean hands and pure intentions. It wasn't rejection. It was redirection. It was God's way of saying, not this, not now, not with them. You weren't being denied. You were being preserved, held back from what would have watered down your purpose, kept apart from anything that would distort the sound of His voice in your life. Because if the noise got too loud, you might have missed the next instruction. And this next one, it's loaded with power. It's going to reroute your entire future. But only someone tuned to the right frequency could receive it. That's you, chosen one. You're not just hearing words. You're interpreting divine signals. You're navigating by what doesn't make sense to others, but makes perfect sense to your spirit. You're walking a path that feels invisible to the world, but feels undeniable to your soul. That's not madness. That's maturity. Spiritual maturity knows that faith doesn't follow facts. It builds futures. And now the future is calling. Chosen one. Every time you obeyed the whisper, every time you responded without needing applause, you passed a test. Most people don't even recognize. The tests didn't come with warning signs. They came dressed as discomfort, dressed as delay, dressed as isolation. But you endured. You waited. You stayed anchored. And because of that, something extraordinary has been unlocked. Heaven is not blind to your sacrifice. You didn't complain, even when no one understood. You didn't retreat, even when it felt like too much. And now, the reward is on its way. But here's the divine irony. The reward looks nothing like the pressure that birthed it. It's softer, sweeter, overflowing, not earned, but granted, because obedience opens doors no effort ever could. And this is why you had to be the one to hear it. If the instruction had gone to someone else, they would have talked themselves out of it, or watered it down, or tried to make it logical. But you knew. Deep in your being, you knew this wasn't just a suggestion. This was sacred. So you aligned your steps, not because it made sense, but because it made truth. The kind of truth that redefines timelines, that accelerates seasons, that causes what should take years to collapse into days. This is what divine obedience does. It doesn't just move you, it moves everything around you. Things begin to arrange themselves. Resources begin to appear. Connections start to unlock. And people, divinely aligned people, begin to find you. Not because you chased them, because you followed direction. That's the paradox of divine instruction. What you chase runs, but what you align with arrives. Your alignment now is magnetic. What belongs to you is already in motion. It's being drawn to your obedience like rivers to gravity. And all because you listened. So keep listening. Let them question your path. Let them wonder why you turned away from what looked safe. Let them talk. What they call a risk, you call revelation. What they think is delay, you know is design. Because you're not just walking anymore, you're moving with divine coordinates. And when your steps are aligned with heaven, even your detours are holy. There comes a time when the chosen one doesn't just follow instruction, they become the instruction. Your life begins to echo divine patterns. Your words carry unseen weight. Your presence triggers change in rooms before you even speak. That's the level you're rising into now. You're no longer reacting. You're releasing. No longer searching. You're standing. The energy around you has shifted. You can feel it in your bones. You sense it when you walk into a place and the atmosphere stirs. That's because the spiritual realm knows who you are, and it recognizes the sound of someone who obeys without needing proof. This is rare. Most people demand evidence before they move. You moved first, and now the evidence is chasing you. Chosen one, this is not just about what you're receiving. It's about who you're becoming. The instruction was never just meant to get you to a destination. It was meant to activate the transformation. Because obedience doesn't just bless your life, it refines your identity. Every time you followed what others couldn't hear, you were strengthened in the unseen. Your discernment sharpened. Your spiritual authority expanded, and your clarity became so fierce that confusion couldn't follow you anymore. That's why old tactics don't work on you. That's why familiar spirits have been trying to circle back. But they can't touch what has been sealed in obedience. You've become untouchable, not by force, but by alignment. You moved into a higher frequency, and now your name is spoken in heavenly places. You may not hear the full applause, but the kingdom knows. And here's what's coming next: divine repositioning. This next phase of your journey isn't just about hearing the next instruction. It's about becoming the embodiment of it. You'll walk into spaces and your very life will preach. Not because you're trying, but because your obedience will shine through every movement, every decision, every silence. The ones who once questioned you will become curious. The ones who dismissed your decisions will ask how you knew. And your answer won't be pride. It will be presence. I listened. That's all. That's what separates the chosen from the confused. Not intelligence, not strength, but surrender. The willingness to be led when everything else is pulling you in another direction. God knew He could trust you with this level of silence. That He could whisper and you wouldn't ignore. That He could give you instructions that made no sense to the world, and you'd still say yes. That's why you're stepping into favor that doesn't match your resume, into opportunities that exceed your qualifications, into alignment that you didn't orchestrate. He did, because you didn't need the spotlight. You needed the signal, and you followed it. This is your reward, chosen one. Not just what you're receiving in the physical, but the version of you that's been birthed in the spiritual. The warrior that didn't panic when storms came. The listener that didn't tune out when the noise got louder. The seeker that didn't settle for comfort when you were being called to grow. Everything about you has changed. And now, the world is about to see the results of a decision you made quietly. A choice you made in the dark. A yes you whispered when no one was clapping. Let them be surprised. Let them wonder how you got here. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You just owe God your continued obedience. Because the journey isn't over. It's just begun. And the next instruction? It's already on its way. Stay close. Stay aware. Stay ready. Because the shift that's coming next isn't just for your benefit. It's for everyone connected to your purpose. And their release is hidden inside your yes. This is the point where the chosen one becomes the carrier of divine motion. Not just a receiver of revelation, but a deliverer of movement. You don't just follow God's voice, you release it. Your steps now carry consequence in the Spirit. Your presence is not neutral. It activates. It awakens. It shifts things just by existing in alignment. You may not realize it, but lately, you've been walking through battles that weren't even yours, winning victories for people you don't even know yet. Every instruction you followed created ripple effects beyond your understanding. When you stayed silent instead of retaliating, something broke in the spirit. When you moved forward despite fear, you unlocked a door for someone watching. You've been moving as a blueprint, not just a person. And that's why God gave you those private directions no one else could hear. Because it wasn't just about you. It was about everything attached to you. Everything God designed to be transformed through your obedience. The directions were divine code, mapped to timelines and outcomes you can't even see yet. That's why He told you to be quiet when your ego wanted to speak. That's why He told you to stay low when your name deserved elevation. That's why He said, "Wait," even when the door looked wide open. Because if you had moved on your timing, you would have missed His intention. It's not just about moving fast, it's about moving correctly. Spirit-led, fully synchronized with a higher plan. A holy rhythm. You're in sync now. That's why you're feeling different. You've shifted out of reaction and into revelation. Out of striving and into streaming. Out of questioning and into confidence. This isn't confidence in yourself alone, it's confidence in the voice that's been guiding you. The voice that kept showing up when everyone else went silent. The whisper that carried you when logic failed. The impulse that moved you just before the collapse. That voice, it has never failed you. And now, it's about to elevate you. The next time you're led to do something that makes no sense, don't hesitate. Because if the instruction feels strange, it means it's sacred. And you, chosen one, were always meant to carry the strange things, the unseen things, the messages others couldn't decode. You're the translator of a higher language. That's why people come to you and say, "I don't know why I'm telling you this." That's why strangers feel peace around you. It's not you they're drawn to. It's the frequency of obedience. They feel the vibration of someone who's been touched by fire and still chose to walk forward. The spirit world knows who you are. That's why things have intensified. You've activated a reaction in the atmosphere. Because when you follow God's directions, the enemy panics. He knows that every obedient step pulls you further from his reach. He knows that once you start listening consistently, you become unstoppable. And now you're there. You've crossed into that realm. This is your confirmation. You're not crazy. You're not late. You're not behind. You're right where God needs you to be. You are following divine GPS. Even when the road looks unfamiliar, trust the turn. Trust the silence. Trust the detours. Because one simple shift in your obedience can cause a complete override in your atmosphere. That's what's happening now. A divine override. The old patterns are breaking. The cycles are collapsing. The warfare is weakening. Because you've listened. And when a chosen one listens, all of creation has to respond. Everything around you may look the same, but don't let the silence deceive you. In the spirit, things are moving fast. Alignments are forming. People you haven't met are being prepared. Doors you've never knocked on are unlocking because of your current position of surrender. And yet, the loudest move you've made lately has been your stillness. You didn't fight to prove your worth. You didn't beg to be seen. You didn't panic when the doors seemed delayed. Instead, you listened. And that was the move that shattered the resistance in the unseen realm. The kind of move that only a true chosen one can make. Because most people want noise, attention, validation, confirmation. But you leaned into the whisper. That's what separates you. The whisper is not always easy to follow. It doesn't feed the ego. It doesn't validate your emotions. It rarely comes with applause. But it's where the anointing lives. It's where your assignment matures. And you, chosen one, were sensitive enough to feel it. The moment you honored the whisper over the crowd, you activated a sacred current. That current has started flowing through your destiny, washing away what's false and resurrecting what was buried. It's why you've been feeling a pull to disconnect from the noise. It's why you can't entertain what others chase. It's why you've lost the taste for certain environments, certain people, even certain dreams. This isn't loss. This is positioning. God is narrowing your path, not to punish, but to prepare. You're not like them, chosen one. You were never meant to blend in with the many. You are the one who carries a rare code, a divine imprint, and when you move, it matters. Your steps alter atmospheres. Your prayers shake systems. Your thoughts manifest ripples in realms most people don't even believe exist. That's why your isolation had to come, because when a vessel is rare, it must be refined in rare conditions. God pulled you away not to break you, but to shield you while He upgraded your clarity. You're not being delayed. You're being decoded. You are God's answer to a question the world hasn't asked yet. And that's why your obedience seems so misunderstood. Because people are still looking for God in familiar places, while He's speaking to you in secret spaces. You're being led through a blueprint that hasn't been revealed to the masses yet. But when the moment comes, and it will, your life will be the proof that listening was worth it. So don't panic when nothing makes sense. Don't question the silence. Don't mourn the ones who left when you chose the narrow path. They weren't equipped to walk with someone being built by revelation. You're not on a common journey. You're on a prophetic timeline. And with every instruction you follow, you collapse another counterfeit opportunity that would have distracted you. God is closing doors that your emotions begged for, but your destiny didn't need. That's why things were denied. Not because you were undeserving, but because you were overqualified for average. Chosen one, you don't belong in the crowd. You are the sign the crowd is waiting for. There's a sacred silence that comes before a divine announcement. That's where you are. The silence is not a punishment. It's the echo of God's hand writing your next chapter in places no enemy can touch. And when He writes, He doesn't use ink. He uses fire. Your obedience lit that fire. Every time you moved without a map, trusted without evidence, believed without applause. You stoked the flames. You've been building something with invisible bricks, chosen one. That's why others couldn't see it. That's why they laughed. That's why they questioned your discernment. But now, the same people who doubted your direction will witness your confirmation. But now, the same people who doubted your direction will witness your confirmation. Because what was hidden in faith is about to be revealed in glory.